about the sea, I find.
Hey guys, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Acoustic Silk Show. This is episode 8. We have a very special guest with us today, and her name is Rue. So Rue, can you tell us a little about yourself?
I am a 25-year-old Canadian, self-taught artist. I started out predominantly singing, doing vocals with other producers in various genres, and then I kind of wanted to carve my own sound, so I started to pick up a little bit more of the kalimba and karimba and started rolling with that and really enjoyed it. And the rest is history.
All right, awesome. So, what are you doing? What are you doing currently in music? Are you working on another project? Are you still working with other artists? All of the above? Just chilling? Like, what's going on?
I've been on a little bit of a hiatus for writing.
Okay.
I spend about 3 months of the year working out in the woods, so there isn't a lot of access for me to record or to have communication with producers or anything like that.
Okay.
So this is kind of my time where I have instruments with me. This is my time to kind of hone in on creative, I guess, stockpiling for the rest of the year.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the works of low-key getting another EP or full-length album on the go.
Okay. So you do this hiatus in the woods every single year, and you do this just like for creative purposes to like pay the bills, or both?
This is a work thing predominantly, but it's also a creative thing.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
good. That's good that it works in multiple ways there. It's not just one or the other. Okay. And what exactly you mean by working in the woods? Like, what do you do?
I work in reforestation, so I plant trees.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Is that why your Instagram is flooded with like beautiful pics all the time?
Betcha. I spend most of the time either traveling in a truck or living in the woods. So
Awesome. Awesome. So, is that something you're going to continue to do in the future?
yeah,
It's
I
just a
think
part of you?
yeah, absolutely. I really enjoy it. I like being isolated. I'm not a huge city person, so I definitely think this is in my blood.
Okay. And I definitely can kind of get that vibe from your EP, the Incarnate EP, which is how I first found you. Was that your first ever project you released?
It was, yeah. That was the first. I had started under a different moniker when I was making music originally. And then I kind of, as I said before, kind of wanting to carve my own sound, created the moniker of Rue. And this EP was the first project that I had put out as my own full creation.
Okay. What was your moniker before? Just in case some people are listening that knew you as something else. Because literally, the last guy I interviewed, his name was Austin, but he formerly went by Ox Jennings. Dope artist. And I was just looking around for his music one day, and I couldn't find it. Because all of a sudden, he had changed his name. So
It happens.
it happens for sure.
I went under the moniker of Kaya, and I released some stuff with Macabre Unit Digital in the UK, and then another project with the same producer, Phoenix, that came out under Uprised Audio.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you switch up the name just to switch up the vibe a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right. And so, like, why did you come up with that name? How did you come up with that name, Rue?
I am very distinctly a redhead.
Okay.
I wanted something that was one syllable, that was easy, kind of like easy to remember, something that I just wanted one syllable. That was really the breakdown of it. And Rouge was too much, I guess, too predictable.
Okay.
I shortened it. I really liked, I don't know, it just kind of had this like silly, it stuck. I thought about it and then it stuck.
Okay. I like that. I'm partial to 3-letter names, so I like that.
Right?
So you were born and raised in Canada?
It was, yeah.
Okay. What part?
I was born in Ontario, outside of a little town called Perth.
Okay.
I lived there until I was about 9 years old, and then I moved to Alberta and lived there until I graduated, and then I've kind of been all over Western Canada ever since.
Okay, awesome. How do you find that the whole Canada vibe kind of impacts your music or your thought process about music? Because over the past few years, I'm sure it's been no secret, but like obviously Toronto has been like kind of big in the music fold. You've had artists like Drake, like Roy Woods, Maja Jordan, the whole OVO sound people, Tory Lanez. You know what I'm talking about. All these people. So do you have that same kind of influence from Canada that you find that comes through in your music?
I think for me, Canada was always kind of a little bit like the younger brother of the US, you know, like nobody really took artists seriously because it was just like north of the border. I don't know, there was something to it that wasn't necessarily regarded in the same way that the US was.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, you know, the population here is less, but we have so much more space, and
That's true.
it's an incredible country, but like there is a lot of room for inspiration, and Toronto is definitely a very like constant creativity. Same with, you know, certain big cities, Vancouver, Montreal, they just have like not even a lot of people, but just a lot of creative energy going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think Canada is like, it's the wild, wild west, you know. We have there's something about it that's like, I've traveled a lot in the US, and people are always really intrigued when they hear I'm from Canada. It's just kind of an unknown place. There's a lot of mystery around it, which I a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I've not been to Canada. I've only been there once, to Toronto. I've seen pictures of like Montreal, like Quebec, and they look absolutely gorgeous. I don't really know why that is, that we don't really travel up there too much, because you guys are just right there. But then again, we as Americans typically aren't as I guess globally minded as other countries.
Yeah, I think that's another thing about Canadians is we tend to be pretty. I mean, it's a generalization when you say that about anybody, but we tend to be pretty open-minded and pretty welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when we travel, it makes it easier. When we make connections with other artists, for myself, I find, you know, like connecting with other producers or other vocalists, it's kind of coming from a place of being humble, I think is probably the best way that you can approach anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that allows for a lot of an easier way of making connections and collaborations.
Yeah, for sure. So have you worked with any American artists or plan on working with American artists like in the near future?
I do have, yes, I'm going to say yes. I had a couple people from the States do remixes of the EP.
Okay.
One in particular that really stood out from a mutual friend who goes by Supertask. He is out of Oregon. He's incredibly talented, and just recently I sent a message to give him another shout out because his production is like, it's something I have on repeat all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly the Pacific Northwest, people from that area.
Okay. So where you live is on that side of the world, right? I think you said Western Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you go to that area a lot?
I do, yeah. I travel there quite a bit, usually once a year.
Okay. Awesome. So as far as like, how would you describe your music coming? I heard the EP and I felt like it was very, I guess, deep, kind of lonely in a sense. Maybe a little dark in some instances. I kind of feel like, because you said that you enjoy your alone time a little bit and kind of that woods time, and I feel like that definitely portrays itself in your music. Now that you said that, how would you describe it?
I made a joke one time to a friend of mine that I write sad gal music, and I think that definitely plate. um, I honestly don't know. That's a question that I tend to ask other people because I am in no way a predominantly sad person, but I do spend a lot of my time alone. And,
Okay.
And in the same, like producing one-on-one with people or interacting one-on-one with people. So it kind of, I guess like it is a direct translation of just like my experiences, which generally are like a lot of alone time or a lot of time spent with people in very like in-depth one-on-one interactions.
Okay. So have you always been like that, spending a lot of alone time, or is that a nature of the job that you do, or that's just
No,
kind of how you?
it's been an all. I absolutely love human beings, but I guess from the time I was younger, because I'm the youngest child in my family by quite a number of years. So I think innately ended up spending a lot of time by myself, and then it kind of gradually progressed over time that I do always have people around, but the majority of time I guess I spend alone, just kind of like honing in on hobbies and yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So that's good that I guess the music comes from a genuine place, because I know a lot of people try and make music that really isn't who they are as a person. I guess just for the popularity of it. So I really feel that genuineness in your music.
Good to hear. That's absolutely what I'm going for.
Perfect. So you released the EP about 6 months ago. Is that right?
I did, yeah.
Now, did you have songs on your SoundCloud beforehand?
I did. Everything I had up there was collaborations with other artists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing that was released by me.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, wow, 1.3K followers on just 3 songs. That's incredibly impressive. But yeah, yeah.
I don't know how that. I don't know how it happened.
I mean, that just speaks to your work. Do good quality stuff, and then like the people will come. So
yeah.
So that's awesome. More power to you.
Thank you.
Like what did when you first told your parents or your family about your music aspirations, what did they say?
It's never been a telling my family kind of thing. I've been raised in a pretty musical family.
Okay.
And if anything, I think my mom would have wanted me to be a pop star, but I let her dreams down. No, but
there's still time.
My family's kind of always been there. Yeah, totally. There's still time. Exactly. I'm still young. No, my family's been there with me kind of the whole way. So when I told them about the EP, and everybody was pretty elated because it was the first kind of like independent project I had taken on by myself. And yeah, I mean, as with anyone in the world, they were a really important audience for me. And because it was a project that I didn't know how it was going to be received, honestly. I released it with the intention of it just being out there. I was excited about it. I really enjoyed listening to it. I loved creating it. And I figured I might as well share it. And if 100 people listen to it, or 5 people listen to it, or 5,000, I was going to be pleased either way. And so I kind of felt like they felt the same way about it.
Okay, awesome. No, how did you get over that fear of wondering what people were going to think about it and how was it going to be received?
I think that translates in so many aspects of life. It's like, it's what other people think of you is none of your business, you know? That's a classic line from my older sister, and I think it rings true in a lot of avenues of life. If somebody doesn't like your music, or if somebody doesn't like you, they don't have to listen to it. They don't have to be around you. But
right.
You know, some people might, and even if one person is affected by it, or one person enjoys it so much that they want to, you know, play it even twice or play it on repeat for a day, like that to me is worth it.
Right. I agree with you there. I've always been a believer that if you put it out, like you will have people that like it, and you're always gonna have people that dislike it. So you might as well just put it out anyway. Like even like the most popular.
Everybody has.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say everybody has different tastes. I have people on my crew here who hate on Drake.
Oh, really?
That's no.
Yeah. I mean, he's like one of the most popular artists right now. So yeah, everyone's gonna have haters, and everyone's gonna have people that like them. So
Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. I wonder how many artists there are that have like amazing music and just don't put it out for that fear, because I think that's a really big fear that
Yeah,
people have.
definitely.
Yeah. So, what kind of encourages you to keep on going in the music? I mean, I'm assuming you eventually want it to be like a stable source of income for you to be able to do that full time, but I mean, not everyone's goals are the same. So, what would you say to that?
Honestly, I've never really approached it that way. It is something that I have been considering more and more recently about being something that I pour, I guess, more of myself into. I do feel like a lot of my time is divided between, being out here and traveling where I don't have necessarily the same accessibility towards like recording equipment or just like creative space, right? But I feel like I will continue to pursue it for the rest of my life because it's my like most intense creative outlet. And the biggest feat for me in the near future is playing live shows, because I am incredibly nervous to play on stage.
Yeah.
That's my biggest goal.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it takes practice like everything else. A few of the artists I've interviewed have recently done live shows, like their first, and obviously it's nerve wracking. But I think the feel and especially if you can get the crowd into it, it's like it's all worth it. You know. That's awesome. So when do you think your first live show will be?
Ooh. Already got uncomfortable. Sweaty palms. I'm gonna aim for, like, I'm starting school in October, so I'm gonna aim for I'm gonna probably aim for next summer.
Aim for next summer 2018.
2018.
All right. So I'm a check on you now next summer.
Damn it, I knew that was coming.
No, obviously it's whenever you feel best about it. But yeah, that'd be great. So, what other goals in music do you have? Like, what do you hope to get out of it? Just a creative outlet and just let it take you wherever it goes, or do you have like some hard goals? Like, I want to make like a full feature album with like this producer and that type of thing, or
I guess my biggest goal at the moment is like I kind of started cooking up the idea of having an album, a full-length album, and reaching out to all the producers who either have done remixes of my work before, who have really like been incredible with, or to seek out people whose music I am in awe of, you know, and kind of compile just like an amalgamation of various work to have known, like, not any necessary structure to it, but just kind of like, you know, we feed off of each other in creating a song, and then that gets compiled into a full-length album. I would love if that could come into fruition at some point.
Okay. I think that can definitely happen. That's a definitely attainable goal. What about like a big like clouds goal, like something that's like might be unattainable but you can do?
Man, if I could do a tour and play shows, like that's, I know it sounds like such a simple thing for a lot of artists, but for me that's like a huge dream for sure.
Okay. So what would you consider like a success? What would you consider like your musical journey to be a success? At what point, if not already?
Honestly, I felt like the way that this EP was received and the feedback that I got from it was like far beyond anything I could have comprehended.
Mm-hmm.
And that was almost more of kind of like a way of spurring me on to continue and to go further with this.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess seeing that happen, seeing, my, I guess like my abilities in writing expand to be able to incorporate any type of genre, like I don't want to put myself just into a box of sad gal songs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But like in a measure of success, it would be, having those people that I either reach out to or they reach out to me, creating something and having more, more things like this come up where people want to share the music and people want to talk about it with me, and like that for me is a huge success as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking about this, like, I'm sure when you got the email, I don't know how many other emails you might have gotten about interview requests, but I don't know any of the other channels that are doing this. Like, what were you thinking?
I told you I had no expectations.
No expectations. Okay.
No, I didn't know. I mean, I'm excited to talk about it in any regard. I didn't know what I was getting into or what, but to me, anybody who reaches out and wants to, pretty much anybody who's heard it and feels like compelled to share it with other people or hear what I have to say about it or what my creative process is, like that's huge for me, because that's like the biggest impact as an artist is somebody hearing your work and enjoying it, so
Absolutely.
yeah, I had no do it all, but I was pretty excited, so
That's awesome. You are one of like a handful of artists that I've been in touch with that are pretty like prompt with your responses and like pretty like about their business. Because I don't know like how many artists you talk to that kind of do this, but a lot of them are like, that I've learned over the past like year and a half I've been doing this, is like they can be a little flaky at times. So
people are so flaily.
Yeah, I'm not gonna name any names, but I think that's just like an artist thing. I think that's a thing.
It is. It totally is. No, I don't know. I'm not like that in life, and I try to be pretty on top of my shit. So, if people are going to make time for me, I'm going to respect that and make time for them, and vice versa. I like my time frames to be respected. I think it's just like, it's a professional way of dealing with things. This isn't
Absolutely.
my livelihood, but I want to be taken seriously with it. So I'm going to act in a kind of respectful and respectable manner.
I really appreciate that. And for anybody, any artist or anybody, producer who's listening to this right now, make sure that you are about your business and you do what you say you're going to do. Because that really is going to stand out. That's going to stand out, especially in a sea of like flaky artists. That's really going to stand out. And I think that's going to definitely work to your benefit in the future if you do that. So I thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. Do you have any other tips for any upcoming artists?
Man, Kendrick said it better than I could. Be humble. Just like, there's nothing worse than people who, get a little bit of acknowledgement for their work and they let it go to their heads, and all of a sudden they say or do things because they feel like they're on top of the world. I don't care if you're Drake or some dude playing in a coffee shop. It's still, like, humbleness is imperative to success in life, I feel like, because it makes you way more approachable, and it's gonna make communication and interaction with people 1,000 times easier.
Right, and you're not going to be on top of the world forever. You're just not. Eventually, you're gonna fall. So you want people to remember that you were always humble when you were on top, for sure.
Hope I stay true to my word.
Who knows, man? You could be like Katy Perry next year or something. And then we'll see. You start ignore my text.
Never answer my emails for the rest of them.
Exactly. So a few more questions here. So you said you work at you do reforestation for like 2 months out of the year. What do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do the rest of the time to like kind of like make ends meet? because I'm asking this question not just to be nosy, but I want any of the other artists or anybody who's listening right now who's doing something similar to what you're doing, the music thing. I want them to understand that a lot of artists do the whole hustle thing where they work like a few jobs at one time, just to get by, to maybe afford some studio time or upgrade their equipment or whatever it is. Maybe you have some other like options for artists too that may be a good way to make some extra money on the side to be able to pursue that passion.
I'm all about the hustle. I think that's kind of why I started really adapting to being a bit more professional with like time frames and things like that, because once you get on hustles of like many different projects going on, if you don't have that going, it's chaos. But if you are able to kind of be on top of your shit and have it compartmentalized, then it makes it a lot easier. I usually have like a lot of my work isn't necessarily by the books. I do a lot of things like under the table. I do freelance modeling actually. I've done, working in the ganja industry. I like served in restaurants. I kind of like, I'm a Jane of all trades. There's definitely like nothing I won't do or try.
Okay.
And I usually take like little short breaks where I'm not working, just to kind of like reset and rebalance. But I really enjoy working hard, so I just I'm keeping on it.
Okay. And would you recommend the reforestation industry to other artists?
No. It's terrible backbreaking work. No, it's amazing. It's an incredible environment. It's really, really hard work.
It must be gratifying in some respects, right?
There's nothing better than the feeling of like coming home after an 8 to 10 hour day of working, like moving all day. Essentially, you're just like hiking all day.
That sounds awesome to me.
And feeling so physically tired though, right? Like it's definitely a huge struggle, but like the people in the environment here are what has brought me back. And yeah, I think it's absolutely like super beneficial and very gratifying at the end of every day.
Okay. You mentioned you were going to school next year.
Yeah.
Is that can you tell us a little bit about that? Is that you going to music school or what?
I'm not. I'm going to school for horticulture.
Awesome. Interesting fact before you continue. I was actually in the horticulture department in college.
No way.
Yeah. I did research though. It was like basic science, so like molecules and stuff. So I didn't plant anything, but every year they gave us like all the plants they did like experiments on. We got to eat them, and that was cool. So we get like watermelon, zucchinis, like potatoes, berries, like any vegetable or fruit we got to eat. It was awesome.
Sounds like not the worst situation.
Not the worst, and I was getting paid where a lot of people don't get paid in undergrad to do research. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So nice little gig. But anyway, going to study horticulture next year.
I want to be able to eat all the watermelons I grow. That's the whole point.
There you go.
Yeah, my goal is to kind of get a little bit more into working in like medical grade ganja grows in Canada.
Okay.
So having a little bit of like schooling and credibility for that on top of experience is pretty beneficial. So.
Okay. Now remind me again. I'm not too familiar on the laws. What's the laws regarding marijuana in Canada? Is it like legal for medical or?
Medical, yes, but surprisingly, we're still a little bit behind. There's a lot of our prime minister who came in a couple of years ago. That was his original promise, but there was a lot of kind of underhanded agreements that had been made years ago where Canada wasn't allowed to essentially legalize marijuana. So I'm essentially going into it with not putting any stock into politicians or governmental systems becoming a little bit more lax on it. I think like operating still in the medical realm of it is helpful, and that's kind of just like all I'm going to focus on without hoping for promises that come from people who don't stay true to their word,
Right. So, okay. All right, I got you. So medical...
It's not as harsh as the States, though. I will put it that way.
So it's like decriminalized a little bit. Like if you get caught with some, you're not going to jail for like 10 years.
No, it's not as extreme as the U.S. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, it's really extreme down here.
Yeah.
It's very extreme. Um, but you know, we're coming along nice and slowly, like the U.S. typically does. So
Baby steps, yeah.
baby steps. Wish they were a little bit bigger sometimes, but what can you do? So that's good. How long is that program? How long does that last?
It kind of staggers. So right now, I'm in the program that's just 2 years, and then I can kind of see where I want to go from there. Whether or not I want to try to just get an entry level position, or if I want to continue with school.
Okay.
I'm going to try to do the least amount of schooling as possible because I already have a solid amount of hands-on experience, and I'd rather do that than learn it in a classroom, especially because it's a specialized kind of area that I'm going into. It's not just general horticulture.
Right. Awesome. So back to music. Do you play any instruments? Do you like produce? Do you engineer? Do you do anything like that?
So I play a few different instruments, particularly on the EP. All of the kind of melodic tones you hear is the karimba. That's mainly what I play and try to incorporate that in all the writing that I do.
Karimba.
Hold on one second. Hi!
All right.
During an interview, I gotta come say hi after. It's okay. We just had another camp come in here, so there's a whole bunch of humans I haven't seen in like a year.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I play the karimba mainly. I play a couple other instruments, and I have a little bit of like I did sound engineering in school a little bit. But for this EP, mostly I was co-producing with somebody. So we were taking like the framework of all the percussion I wanted from just like me beatboxing.
Mm-hmm.
We kept that as like the basic structure, and then kind of created from that as our framework.
Okay.
Yeah.
So who were you working with to produce?
Forlor.
Oh, I love Forlor.
Yeah, bomb.
I like that one joint with Sleep. I love that song. One of my favorite songs by him. Yeah, so you work with him a lot?
Yeah, I was working with him quite a bit. He's a friend of mine from Calgary, and he also happened to live like 4 blocks away from where I lived.
Ironic.
So we had worked. What's that?
I said that's ironic. 4 blocks, Forlor.
Is it? Forlor, yeah, 4 blocks.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more like 6 blocks. But
Okay. All right.
But we would trade off a little bit. Like I would go and do vocal samples for him, and then he would help me record things for other collaborations I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was definitely my go-to for working on this because he's incredibly patient, and we always have like way too much fun when we're in the studio together. So.
All right. Yeah, that was actually my next question. Is what's your setup like? Because I know a lot of people, they just have like a mic and their laptop. You mentioned studio, so what's your setup like for recording?
I was working in Forlor's studio at the time.
Oh, he has his own studio?
He had his own when he was living in Calgary. He's moved to Montreal, but when he was in Calgary, he had a studio in his house, and it was like this like really kitted out little space. It was super, super nice, and just like, I don't know, I really enjoyed it. And he's extremely, extremely organized, so going into any of his living space is very calming. But
nice.
Yeah, he had a space which is where we did most of the recording, and then I ended up doing a lot of my vocal recordings in there for other projects as well.
Okay, awesome. So what about in the future? I'm assuming you mentioned you don't have any equipment with you now while you're in the woods. I mean, do you record now or?
No, this is kind of the off time where it's just like strictly writing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. Being that I'm like mobile all the time
Mm-hmm.
and haven't been situated for quite a while, it's kind of a little bit difficult for me to envision having studio space.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something I really appreciate, having other artists to work with, or being really versatile in terms of coming into other people's studio spaces or renting space to, do quick recordings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do, have a couple of my own like mic options and things like that for when I do go into spaces.
Okay. Awesome. So we're gonna wrap up here pretty shortly. Which artists that do you listen to on the regular that give you a lot of inspiration?
Ooh.
Actually, before you answer that, you can tell me just who you listen to, just like casually or whatever, and then who like really inspires you. So 2 separate questions there.
Okay. I've been listening to the artist Russ a lot recently.
Okay.
I just discovered his music actually when I was out here, and then got all of his albums, and have just been like kind of in awe of what he does,
Mm-hmm.
production wise, and and his writing and his vocal stylings as well. Like all of it, I'm just kind of blown away by. But in terms of production, the artist I was telling you about, a friend of mine, Super Task from Bend, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
He's somebody who I've been listening to pretty much on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
And Obason from Toronto.
I know him. Yeah, he's good.
He's very, very good. He's on repeat all the time.
Okay. Do you know him?
I don't.
Maybe one day. Next year when you're Katy Perry.
Oh.
You'll know everybody.
We did a bit, but he had lost everything on his. He had lost his whole hard drive, and he didn't seem to be having a good time about it. So.
Hold on, who? Who lost their whole hard drive?
Obason did.
Oh, really?
Or he lost quite a bit of music.
This was when? Recently?
I'm trying to think of when I talked to him. It must have been at least 6 months ago.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed if I lost my whole hard drive.
Yeah.
I'm gonna knock on wood over here, man. Man, I can only imagine, especially for him. I mean, I'm sure at his level, he's doing music full time, doing everything, right? So that's like a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. All right. Well, yeah, those are some great artists. Do you listen? I guess Russ is kind of mainstream. Who do you listen to that's like mainstream, like up there, or do you listen to them at all? I know a lot of artists don't like to. Sorry, I was just gonna say I know a lot of artists don't like to listen. No, well,
everybody does.
That and they don't like to necessarily listen to other people's music because they find themselves kind of like unconsciously copying it in a sense, or finding its way into their music unconsciously.
Pretty much everything I listen to that's mainstream is either like hip hop or R&B, and it's pretty hard for me to like emulate that or mimic it. So I guess I don't have that concern.
Okay, that's not your vibe yet.
I wish.
You haven't tried to rap yet?
2018.
2018. Okay. All right. I'm gonna hold you to that too. I expect to see some bars on there, on that SoundCloud. Awesome. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate that, especially coming live from the woods. It's not easy to get Wi-Fi out there, so I really appreciate that. Where can people reach out to you?
Email is the best way to do it. I always kind of have access to that. I usually semi-check SoundCloud messages, but email is the best way.
Okay. And what's your email if you want to put it out there?
roumusiq@gmail.com. So it's ROUMUSIQ roumusiq@gmail.com.
All right. And then you have a SoundCloud. I'm gonna link that in the description, obviously, and all your other links. And you have an Instagram, and also pretty good Instagram, really good Instagram. Very eerie. It made me feel like you were really mysterious. I was like, wow, what does this girl do?
That's all right. We'll keep up with that.
Yeah. So I definitely like that vibe, and then it kind of matches with your music too. So I definitely rock with that.
Totally.
All right. Any last tips for any young kid listening to this who wants to do music in the future? Anybody who wants to do something creative in the future?
I don't know, don't be afraid to share it. It's all fun and good to be producing in your bedroom, but sometimes it's good to let it fall on other ears.
And be unemotional about the negative feedback. Sometimes the negative feedback is good though. It's constructive feedback. But
constructive criticism.
There you go. But I mean, obviously you can get haters too that just like want to say bad things just to say bad things. So
yeah.
All right, so put it out there. Don't be afraid. All right, well that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to this interview. If you liked it, please hit that like button. And if you want to see more of the videos like this, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you, guys.
As we get lost in the vacancies aloud, I will find